All right, let's go ahead and jump into our conversation to discuss my visit to your classroom the other day. On our last coaching conversation, we discussed ways in which you could hold your scholars more accountable for completing a task that you had at hand. And I noticed during my visit that you implemented two great new strategies to help hold them accountable. The use of your clipboard to just go around and monitor the activity of your scholars and simply checking their names off as they completed this task. This allowed the scholars to see that you were aware of their activity, as well as you were checking to see how much they got done in a particular amount of time. I also like the way how you chunk that large activity into small chunks by giving them a time limit. By allowing this, it gave those scholars who may feel that the activity was too massive for them to complete to have an opportunity to work at a pace that was best for them. And after the time was up, you also took time to go ahead and check that particular piece of work that you had chunked to make sure that everybody was on the same page. So those two strategies, I commend you on implementing those two strategies in your classroom. So what are some changes that you noticed from implementing these two strategies in your classrooms? And well, the biggest change that I've noticed since I implemented those two new strategies, I noticed that a lot more scholars were completing the task and they felt more confident knowing that they didn't have to complete the whole task in one sitting. So by me breaking the assignment up into different chunks and different parts, it allowed for my scholars just to feel more confident in themselves and to get the task done. So those probably the most changes that I've seen. Well, again, I think it was a great idea for you to implement those two strategies to hold your scholars more accountable for completing a task at hand. And throughout the school year, if you need to make any changes by adjusting the amount of time you give a scholar to complete the task, you can as well. And continue to walk around and monitor your scholars using your clipboard so that they can see that you are looking to see that they're meeting the expectations that you have set for them to complete that particular task. So during my time there, I noticed that you did allot some time for your scholars to complete group work as well as independent work. So tell me, what is your main purpose for allotting this time for your scholars to complete this group work and independent work, as well as what is the purpose for you as the teacher during that time you have them to complete this group work or independent work? And tell me, what are some problems or some things that you notice that is taken away from this time from your scholars? Well, the purpose of the group work and also the independent work time that I give my scholars on a daily basis is just allow them time to practice the skill that I taught for that particular day, and also give me an opportunity to walk around and engage in conversations with my scholars to see how well they grasp the material that I taught and to clear up any misunderstandings or any misconceptions that they may have. But I've noticed that during that time they have to work independently or in a group, I noticed that a lot of my time is being taken away because I'm pretty much trying to recorrect negative behavior and just getting those scholars who are on task, and it takes away from the time that I have with the scholars who are on task and to help answer any questions that they may have. Yes, I agree. So that independent work time and that group time is very, very critical in your instruction time because it allows for your scholars, like you said, to have time to work and struggle with those different concepts that you have taught. And I did notice during my visit that a lot of times you were redirecting negative behavior, and it sort of kind of interrupted the flow of your lesson and also took you away from those scholars who were on task. So I think that it was a lot of times where directions were unclear and the scholars may not fully understood your expectations, as well as I didn't see any type of consequence letter or any type of consequences given out for scholars who were off task. So I think that I have a strategy. They're called MVP directions. The M stands for movement. The V stands for volume, and the P stands for participation. So I think if you implement these MVP directions, followed by narrating the positive, as well as creating some type of behavior consequence system in your classroom, I think it will cut down on a lot of the off tasks that you're seeing from those scholars who are not following your instruction or meeting your expectations. So what I would like to do, I would like to model for you how to deliver MVP directions. And during this time, I just want you to take notes. Tell me some things that you may notice or see in me implementing these MVP directions, as well as I'm going to show you how to narrate the positive after you have implemented your MVP directions, so that you are basically paying attention to those scholars who are on task to redirect the negative behavior of those scholars who are off task. So I'm gonna one particular moment in your class, or during that session I was there, I noticed that you had completely went over the first part of your lesson, and you went over the answers with the scholars, and then you wanted them to go back to work. And I noticed that during that time, an MVP direction would have been perfect for you to get your scholars on task and starting on the next task. So again, MVP directions. M stands for movement, V stands for volume, and P stands for participation. It's very important that when you give MVP directions that you use few words as possible. So it would go like this. When I say go, I need for all of my scholars to get back to work without talking and finish their handout. Again, when I say go, I need for all of my scholars to get back to work without talking and finish their handout. Yes, I feel like by implementing MVP directions and narrating the positive that I see in my scholars, as well as creating some type of consequence system in my classroom, will help a lot, because I didn't have any type of consequence ladder in my classroom, and I did notice that a lot of times when I call on the negative behavior that I see, that it either calls the ones who are off task, the ones who are on task, to feel, neglected, because I'm always calling on those kids who are off task. And also, I notice that a lot of times when I call on the kids who are off task, that we bump heads because they feel like that I'm picking on them, or I'm just calling them out in front of the whole entire class. So I think by implementing those three things, implementing those three things based off our conversation, by implementing MVP directions, narrating the positive, as well as creating some type of consequence ladder in my classroom, will be beneficial during the instructional time that I have with my scholars. So great. So our action steps, I want you to take this pen and write down these 3 action steps. You already stated them, but I'll make sure that we both have a clear understanding of what is going to be expected of you the next time I come visit your classroom. So the first action step is we're going to implement MVP directions, which we have time during our session to do a little modeling, practicing, so that you can feel confident and comfortable with doing those your next session, your next block class. You're also going to narrate the positive, as well as we're going to create some type of consequence ladder that you're going to implement in your classroom, so that you can create the environment that you're looking for, so that instruction can take place on a consistent basis. All right, so again, implementing MVP directions, narrating the positive, and also implement a consequence ladder in your classroom. Are there any questions? All right, so we're going to take this time now to do a little practicing on these MVP directions. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about times in your classroom, in your class, when you think MVP directions will be the most beneficial and very critical in making sure that your class runs smoothly as possible. So take a couple of seconds, just brainstorm when you think MVP directions will be the most beneficial or should be used so that your class can run smoothly. I think MVP directions should take place whenever I noticed that you said in our conversation that MVP direction would have been perfect when I went from one task to the next. So I'm thinking that MVP direction will be good whenever there's some type of transitioning in my instructions. So I'm going to say transitioning. I think also whenever I start something. So whenever I start a task or anything of that nature. So I'm going to say transitioning when I start a task. And maybe when I finish a task, when I want them to do something else. So like, I guess like at the beginning of class, I could have an MVP direction to get them started. And whenever I want them to transition to another topic, I can implement an MVP direction. And then when that task is over with, I can implement another MVP direction. So I'm guessing probably those 3 areas of my instructions. Yes, perfect. Those are 3 opportunities that you can implement MVP directions. Whenever you start a task, it's very important to do MVP direction, as well as whenever you want to transition from one task to the next, and also during the end of class when you want your scholars to line up or to move from one block to the next. So those are 3 opportunities or 3 times where MVP directions can be implemented. So however many times you transition, how many tasks you have in that block, that's how many MVP directions that you need to have whenever it's time for you to have that particular block. So what I want you to do is, I know we're going to implement these MVP directions as well as narrowing the positive and also a consequence ladder. So what I want you to do is I want you to just think about tomorrow's lesson. Think about if there's any transitions that's going to take place in tomorrow's lesson, and we're going to collaborate and we're going to work together to create those MVP directions so that you can practice those MVP directions so that you can feel confident and comfortable with delivering these MVP directions tomorrow. So so take about 2 minutes and just go ahead and we can start doing it together. So you said that a time for you to give MVP direction is the start of class. So we can write one together. So again, our MVP direction, M is for movement, V is for voice, and also P is for participation. So it'll go like this. So you always give a cue, as we said before. So when I say go, it can be a good cue, or whatever it is that you do to get your scholars' attention or get them moving to the next task. So when I say go, take out your notebooks without talking and start the do now. Again. Yes, I can. I think I can do that. So again, you said do not move, strong voice, and also eye contact. So I'm going to try it. When I say go, get out your notebooks without talking and start your do now. Again, when I say go, take out your notebooks without talking and start your do now. Johnny has his notebook out, starting his do now. Samantha's taking out her notebook without talking and starting her do now. Johnny has also got continue to work on those throughout the whole school year. At first, it may seem robotic because it's something that you learned that is new, but after you continue to do it on doing every block, it's going to become second nature to you, and it's going to feel more genuine and more authentic. So I'm going to give you the rest of our coaching time to finish your MVP directions. I'd like for you to have those done. And also, I would like for you to email those to me by 5 p.m. This afternoon, so I can have some opportunity to look at those MVP directions, make any revisions to those if need be. And then I'm also going to make myself available tomorrow morning from 8:15 to 8:30. If you would like for me to come through tomorrow morning to practice those MVP directions again before you implement them during that day.